Hi, everyone. John Michael Coppola here, and welcome to the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast, where we chat with the actors, directors, choreographers, designers, producers, music directors, lyricists, playwrights, and all the artists who make the Chicago area theaters come alive. We're so excited to have you here with us today. But before we get started, we just want to remind you to please like, subscribe to, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues who you think would appreciate the conversations we're having. We'd be so grateful for your support in this way so we can continue to bring these stories for years to come. Thanks again for being here, and now, curtain up on today's episode. Today's guest grew up in Milwaukee and got his first training in theater and visual art at Milwaukee High School of the Arts. Moving to New York City in 2004, he worked as an art department assistant for TV shows and as a rehearsal accompanist on the original Broadway production of The Color Purple before getting a taste of writing and composing. Upon joining the BMI Musical Theatre Workshop, he met Kellen Blair, and their first professional endeavor got quickly off the ground. Their highly acclaimed hit show, Murder for Two, won the Joseph Jefferson Award for Best Musical in its world premiere production at Chicago Shakespeare Theater, and he was nominated for Best Leading Actor. Murder for Two's New York production was also nominated for Drama Desk, Drama League, and Outer Critics Circle Awards, and has played around the world. He has performed the roles of the suspects over 700 times. His work has been performed at Lincoln Center, the Kennedy Center, and on Broadway at the Theater World Awards, and his new show, It Came From Outer Space, had a successful run in Chicago Shakespeare Theater and Theater Squared in summer 2022. His newest show, Todd vs. the Titanic, with book writer Scott Rothman, had its world premiere in the summer of 2024. He also wrote 2 children's musicals for TheaterWorks USA with Marcus Stevens, Dragons Love Tacos, based on the best-selling book, and Live and Let Spy. In the world of podcasting, he wrote, composed the music for, and provided 15 character voices for the acclaimed iHeartMedia history comedy podcast, Let's Start a Coup, and also wrote the episode Spider-Man Surreal Adventures on Broadway for iHeart's series Very Special Episodes. For TV, he composed All Rise, a wacky production number for NBC's Night Court, and as an actor, he has performed in Two Pianos, Four Hands, An Act of God, Dirty Blonde, and The Nerd. Finally, after 19 years of living in New York City, he has recently moved to Chicago, making it now both his creative and permanent home base. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Joe Kinosian. Now let's go to the top of the show. Hi, Joe. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, John?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for joining me. We have a little tradition here. What was your first theater experience?
So do you mean seeing or participating? Either. Okay. Well, before I even really knew about the magic of seeing theater, in first grade, I was cast as George Washington. Okay. And I feel like that was a real trend-setting moment. I had the wig. It was very inaccurate. It was very itchy, but I was like, I like this attention. And I remember like the parents were kind of, taken with this little boy who was like really trying to serve George Washington. And I just remember like, oh yeah, this is awesome. But the first one I'm sure I saw stuff before this, but my folks took me to see a chorus line when I was 12. And I chalked that up as being like, that was so formative. I just thought it was so good. And there was no reason for me to relate to mid-70s dancers problems as a 12-year-old suburban child. But I remember vividly the song Nothing as being like, oh, I want to do to people what this song is doing to people.
Wow, that's quite the thought for a 12-year-old. That's incredible. Nice.
Yeah, that was like a groundbreaker.
And I think it's maybe the first person on the podcast who had chorus line as one of their first experiences. Usually it's like Joseph or The Sound of Music or Annie, like one of the kid-friendly ones. But I love that.
No, my folks were like, put your shoes on. We're going to see chorus line.
Well, now we're going to roll it back. Let's go to the beginning of your life and like tell us where you grew up and your training for our listeners so they can get familiar with who Joe Kinosian is.
Yeah, I grew up in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. And, I'd always taken piano lessons through the year. So I was like definitely a connection to music. And I went to a really amazing high school. I was really, really lucky that there was a public arts high school, still is, although they've lost a lot of their arts funding, unfortunately. But in Milwaukee, it's called Milwaukee High School of the Arts.
Okay.
And I mean, it was such a great environment for a kid who knew what they wanted, what direction they wanted to go in.
Yeah.
And even a lot of my friends who didn't go into the arts, like my friend Kate, who's a public defender now, a very successful one. And, you know, she got her like theater background that she uses as a person who presents cases and tries to get wrongfully convicted people off of death row.
Amazing.
So, yeah, that was a really cool place. And I moved to New York right after college and was there for 19 years. And then now Chicago.
Fantastic. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for film and TV production.
Oh, wow. You decided to go into theater you continued to do theater from a kid, or like, when did you decide you want to do theater as opposed to TV film production? Well,
you know, I think your friends in an artistic setting are like the mirror that's showing you what direction you're supposed to go in. And I thought I was going to be, you know, the next Fellini or something like that. And, you know, my friends in college were never really asking me to direct anything, but they were always asking me to perform or write music for their, you know, to be in their movies or to be in their shows and write musical numbers for their senior projects, all that kind of stuff. And so that was really kind of like helped me find my direction. But my first year in New York, I was a PA on film sets, which was just a whole education unto itself.
Sure.
Shockingly, that scared me away from the movie industry forever.
But we got you in the musical theater world, so we win.
Right. Yeah.
So then what was after your George Washington experience, what other shows did you do that?
Well, the George Washington play transferred to Broadway. So as a 6-year-old, I was on no.
Fantastic. Yes. You were the precursor to Hamilton, of course, all those years earlier. Yes.
Yeah. In my scratchy wig. No, it's, you know, I wanted to act, but I was like, I think relative for an actor, even a young one, I was pretty introverted.
Okay.
I still think I kind of like fundamentally am. I just like, you know, can turn it on when it needs to come on.
Yeah.
But piano playing was my comfort zone.
Sure.
It was my you know, I felt fine as long as I was behind the piano. And my the first show I wrote that got produced was Murder for Two, which came from that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that was also kind of by doing that show, I felt more and more comfortable away from the piano too. So,
okay. Yeah. We're going to touch more on that in a little bit later in the episode. Are you the only person in your family that went into the arts professionally, or do you have it as a background in your family?
Yes, in terms of professionally, but yeah, well, I should say my parents would be the first to tell you that whatever it is skipped a generation, because they are not. It's not their bag. My mom's a fantastic writer. Okay. And my dad has all sorts of like creative pursuits. He makes his own greeting cards, and he used to carve his own Native American style flutes. So he's like, they have creative impulses, but they're not in the arts. My dad's mom, my grandma, was a fantastic piano player.
Okay.
And I think she loved MGM musicals and Judy Garland and Fred Astaire and Richard Rodgers and Cole Porter music. And I think she was a very formative presence in my life because I liked her taste. She had great taste.
So whose idea was it for you then to go into the arts high school as opposed to a regular academic high school?
That was me.
Okay.
It's like, I saw that it existed and I was like, well, this is probably the only high school where I'm going to feel remotely comfortable. So let's see if they'll go for this.
Incredible.
My parents were I was lucky. I had very supportive parents that they were like, yes, clearly this is an interest of yours. Like, let's pursue it.
That's incredible. Any teachers that would be some of your most influential that you could recall?
Oh, yes. Top of the list is Marie Heiss. Hi, Marie. Ms. Heiss was my junior English teacher, and she had very high standards, and she exposed us to a ton of great writing. And she also had a really great dark sense of humor. And my senior year, because ours high school, and your senior year, you would do a senior project where you would either compile or write your own play that you'd then perform, like a 45-minute show. And I was hell bent on writing my own thing. And Marie would meet me before school started, which was really early. So like 6:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And we would go through my script, and she was like, okay, I'm going to talk to you like you're doing this for real. Cause like, I don't get why this character's here. Where's the payoff for this? What's the journey of this? What are you leaving us with? All these like formative writerly thoughts. And she was such a huge influence that I reconnected with her a couple of months ago. And we talked on the phone for like an hour or two, and she's just as inspiring as she ever was. It's like you have these mentor figures that are, I don't know if she knew at the time how much it meant, but she does now because I talk about her every chance I get.
Oh, that's wonderful. Hopefully you'll have to tell her about the episode. Hopefully she'll be listening.
I will absolutely tell her, and she'll listen, and then she'll give me notes on what I could have said more articulately.
I do that to myself every time I'm editing an episode. I'm like, oh, we're editing that out. We're editing that out.
Yeah, of course. Do you have a teacher like that?
I would say, I mean, I grew up in a household. My mom ran an opera company. My dad did community theater. So it was sort of the thing that I grew up doing. So while I didn't actually learn from them, it actually, of course, was just in my blood, if you will. I'm the only one to do it professionally. And my mom's opera company was her joy and her love. She ran for 40 years. She directed, produced, she did it all. But it was, and while everybody else got paid, my mom kind of basically did it for nothing. To
keep it running.
Yeah. And my dad did community theater, did theater in college, but he was a civil engineer his entire adult life, and then continued to do community theater, which basically where my training was. And I had two artists in community theater who were very formidable director choreographers. They did it professionally for many years, and then at some point they took up other arts adjacent professions and directed and choreographed community theater. One of them was a guy named Bob Fitzsimmons. He was not only was a wonderful writer and director and choreographer, just the warmest human being on this earth. And I remember having a conversation with him once about, I was just getting started. There used to be a theater in Westchester County where I grew up called Westchester Broadway Theater. And that's where Bob and the other person I'll mention in a second, but they both worked. And I was probably one of my first professional auditions. They were doing Gypsy, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go audition. And like, I literally had a conversation with them. It was summertime before the auditions happened. And I was sitting and I just said, I'm going to this audition. I'm going with my brother and some friends. And like, what if I were to get the show and they didn't? Like, I'd feel kind of bad about that. Like, literally my first audition. Like, I'm not think I'm going to book the thing. And he said, well, talent will out. He said, they're not going to be any worse of a performer just because they didn't get the job. The people, the powers that be, will see what they see in you and whoever else they cast in the show. And that's, it's not your fault for being talented and getting the job. I was like, okay. So that was like a nice, helpful thing for like a 17-year-old to hear, that, I shouldn't feel bad about myself being successful and get a job. So, but just, he also wrote a lot of children's theater shows. He gave me my first professional job, actually, was doing one of his kids' shows at the dinner theater. And that was paid work. It was, 2 weeks of rehearsal. We did 3 shows on a Saturday, 11, 1 and 3, 2 Saturdays in a row. And it was my first acting paycheck was because of him. So yeah, so I think about him a lot. And then the other guy, a guy named George Puelo, who was also a director choreographer, but also a brilliant artist. He designed the sets at Westchester Broadway Theater for many years. We've lost them many years ago already. But George also was, I worked at the dinner theater in lots of different areas. I eventually made it to the main stage, but while I was in my high school years, I worked in the box office and on crew and follow spot. And so I was around that place all my formative years. And one day George came up to me and he said, have you heard about the show Jersey Boys? And I said, oh yeah, I've been reading about it. He goes, you need to be seen for that. They're looking for guys like you. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, I didn't see, like, I saw the show. I was like, oh, well, they need a guy who could sing, like Frankie Valli and That wasn't where I was singing in that time of my life. And actually, now that I'm speaking out loud about this, I completely forgot. But when I was graduating high school, George bought me 4 voice lessons. He bought me a month worth of voice lessons.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Now, granted, now this is many years later, and I had been doing some non-union tours, and I've been, but now, and he approached me with this, idea about you should look at doing Jersey Boys. And that ultimately was the show that once I worked towards and got called back for, and it was, my Broadway contract that brought me here to Chicago. It's been a blessing of a job. I did that for 2.5 years here. It brought me here. We left Chicago. Then by extension, I created my 4 C notes in 2013 that sort of fell in my lap. So that has been the gift that keeps on giving. And I wouldn't have my current opportunities or my current life if George hadn't encouraged me to go for that show. And if he hadn't invested in me, actually monetarily invested in me as a teenager. Yeah.
Voice lessons are expensive.
Yeah.
That's really thoughtful.
Thank you for asking that, because no one's ever asked me on the podcast about my influences. So I appreciate sharing those stories and reliving them. Yeah.
That's sure amazing. They want to know more. Your fans want to know more about you than about
not true.
New person.
That's not true. That's why I invite people on, because I want people to learn about everybody. You are a director and an actor, as well as a pianist and composer. Any of those titles that you prefer over another?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've always kind of just liked the catch-all artist. Just I feel like that's a good term, and maybe there's a little bit of you can't avoid a little bit of pretension that comes with calling yourself an artist, but that's what it is. And it's I feel so lucky that I get to do all these different departments.
Yeah.
And take on all these different roles. So yes, I guess I like the term artist, and I like whichever one of those jobs comes with a check and insurance.
I love it. Very well said. Now, of course, your name was familiar to me. We just met very recently, but your name was familiar to me, of course, because I had heard about this amazing show called Murder for 2 years ago. Never did see it when it started here in Chicago, and it's been playing all over the place, all over the world. I did finally do a little bit of a deep dive last night, doing some YouTube to see some clips of it, and I'm so sad that I have not seen it in person. I hope to someday. But for our listeners who are unfamiliar with the show, whose tagline, by the way, which I love, is puts the laughter in manslaughter. That is just a genius subtitle. The 2 words don't sound at all the same, but the spelling is exactly the same. The English language. But I want to know, please tell listeners about the show. I'd like to know how you came up with the idea for the show. All those good things about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll start in the middle by saying thank you to AKA Marketing for coming up with that advertising slogan. I wish I could take credit for it, but when we saw it, it was when we opened off Broadway, they had that on the poster, and I was like, oh, that's really good. So thank you to them. I joined the BMI Writers Workshop, like so many other aspiring writers, musical theater writers, in 2008. And for those who don't know the workshop, although I'm sure it's come up here before, it's basically speed dating for musical theater writers. It's a fully subsidized workshop in New York. A lot of people audition for it, but if you're lucky enough to get in, it meets once a week and it's free, and you meet all these other great people. Yes. And you're given these you're randomly paired with someone, and you're assigned a song, and you have to write it and present it in whatever, a week or 2. And so there was an assignment of writing a charm song for the movie It's a Wonderful Life. We'd all watch It's a Wonderful Life, and then everyone would partner up with somebody and write a song for it. And I was randomly paired with Kellen Blair, and we discovered through that assignment that we both are huge fans of old movies and old movie comedies in particular. And so we, during the summer between our first and second year, we were like, well, let's do something together. And what do you want to do? We don't know anyone. We don't have any money. What should we do with the downtime? And I was playing piano for a fabulous TYA show called Dear Edwina off Broadway, Marcy Heisler and Zena Goldrich show. So I was doing that. You were saying about the children's theater that you did 3 times a day. I think with the most we had on one day was 4, which was like, oh my God, I would never do that now. But at the time it was a blast.
Yeah.
Yes. And Kellen was handing out flyers in Times Square, half price tickets to a Broadway show. Anyway, so we met, and at a diner one day, and we came up with like a list of projects we could do. And second from the bottom was 2-person murder mystery, where one person plays the detective and the other plays all of the suspects. And we're like, well, that's cool, because then we can do a full book musical, but it's not reliant on sets, props, or costumes. And to this day, if you license Murder for Two, you can certainly do it with a big design scheme, but you can also do it with quote unquote nothing. And that's, the engagement of it is largely intended to be the relationship with the performers and the audience.
Yeah.
So we presented this, and a producer came to the first reading. He was someone Kellen knew from his days in California, and he helped us get more readings. And it was it was both good and it was bad for the country, but good for us that this was in 2009, which was when the financial crisis was forcing theaters to scale back. And I had actually been cast in a musical going to La Jolla Playhouse. It was a musical version of the movie The Hudsucker Proxy.
Oh, I remember that project. Yeah.
Yeah, really, really strong, wonderful, hilarious musical. I had this great little featured bit as an elevator operator. And the theater replaced this new large cast, large orchestra musical with a production of the 39 Steps. And so that was also an inspiration that Kellen and I were like, well, the writing's on the wall. Theaters want smaller things.
Yes.
So anyway, yes, going on. So we were like well positioned that like theaters looking to do a new musical would find this one that was more affordable than most. So we were so lucky. From the first reading to the first production was less than a year, which is unthinkable now. And even then it was kind of unthinkable. It's like, is this really happening? A year after that was our world premiere at Chicago Shakespeare Theater. And then it opened off Broadway. It ran for a year there. It national tour for 2 years, and now it's been all over the world. And I got to go to China and
oh my God,
Tokyo, and yeah.
Now I'm curious about the journey to get to a premiere at a place like Chicago Shakes. I've never developed a piece that's a book musical, and so I've never had to do any pitches or get a producer involved. So give me and our listeners an idea of what does that process look like?
No, and I'm only laughing because it's just like, I also like want to know the answer to that question.
Okay, fair.
Because I'm like, how do you get a musical go? Because it's so, the amount of, listen, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think Murder for Two is great. I like watching Murder for Two, but I also cannot help but acknowledge how lucky we were that the stars just aligned again and again to bring this thing from page to, New York.
Yeah.
So we were just very lucky that one of I think it was the third reading we did in New York. And it was at a time during the NAMPT conference when a lot of theater producers come to New York to look at new shows for the NAMPT, conference, I guess.
Yeah.
And, one of them was Rick Boynton, who worked at Chicago Shakespeare at the time. Yeah. And he came and he saw our little presentation and he liked it. And he ran it up the flagpole at Chicago Shakespeare, their 6th floor black box theater, which now is, I think, just a rehearsal space, but back then it was one of like their smaller performance space. Yeah. We were slotted in there for spring, and then they didn't have anything coming in until I think December. So we were so lucky that audiences really took to it and they could keep extending it to the point where it is, as far as I know, it's still the longest running show in 45 years of Chicago Shakespeare. And that was because, like, again, the stars just aligned. And again, I think it's good. I'm not being immodest. I am being immodest if I say that. But it's like, look at the people who, when I look at the people like in high school and college that I was in theater classes with, I don't know that it's necessarily always the most talented ones that are still doing it. It's the ones who you have to have the ambition. You have to have the the attitude that nothing else will do but this.
That is a great transition for my next question, which is, do you have any pieces of advice you would give to aspiring theater makers? And maybe that's one of them is to pursue it if that's what you can do. Yeah. But maybe there's something else.
Well, I mean, I think there is a lot to that old, everyone has said this and everyone has heard this, but don't do it if you can do anything else. Like if there's anything else you're interested in, if there's anything else you're good at, if you like being able to like buy new clothing when the mood strikes you, like being able to take a trip when you want to, if you want to go to your friends' weddings, if you want to be home for Christmas, like do something else. I'm going to be performing this holiday season and miss, a second Christmas in a row with my family. That's the gig.
Yeah.
But, so that's one piece of advice that I think, there's a reason that one comes up a lot.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, when I was first starting as a writer, even before I met Kellen, this is in 2005, I had a mentorship for like a year with Craig Carnelia.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, fabulous lyricist of Sweet Smell of Success and Is There Life After High School, and lots of wonderful, one-off cabaret material. And Craig was going through an early piece that I had written, unproduced, obviously. And he stopped me at one point as I was trying to like explain the story to him. And he said, "Joe, I can't laugh if I'm confused." And I think that is the most valuable piece of advice I've ever been given as a writer. Yes. And I think about it all the time, and not just in terms of laughing, but in terms of caring or being engaged or anything. It's like, you must be clarity first and everything else after.
Yeah. You got that, writers listening? Clarity first, everything else after. That's fantastic.
And Craig has that great voice that's like so commanding, even though he never talks very loudly.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to do it like him. He says, "Joe, I can't laugh if I'm confused." It was like that. And it was like just full body chills and terror and excitement all followed. So thanks, Craig. I think about it every day.
Do you have any other projects that you're currently working on that you hope to bring to the stage in a full production?
Yeah. First and foremost is I opened another musical at Chicago Shakespeare in 2022 called It Came from Outer Space. And it looks like there's some more, hopefully some more traction with that. And hopefully we're headed to another production someday soon. We did a workshop last month, and
great.
We'll see. Lots of changes going on.
I had a couple friends in that, and I didn't realize that was also your piece. I apologize.
Oh,
yeah.
Who?
I believe Ryan Stammaker was a swing in that show.
Yeah. He's fabulous.
He's one of my 4C notes. He's now on tour with Beetlejuice. I don't know if you know that.
So talented.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I did know that. Yeah.
Who did he cover in that? Oh wait, and then I think, did Andres Enriquez go in there?
Yeah, he did too.
He replaced Ryan.
Replaced Jonathan Butler Duplessis.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
he's another one of my C notes. So I remember a couple of guys hopping in that show when it was around. Oh, that's great. Glad to hear that's got a bit more of a future.
We'll see.
We'll keep up with this cross for you, for sure.
Now, you just never know. You never know. But yes, hope springs eternal.
Now, you just moved back here to Chicago from New York after a long stretch. What made you decide to move back to the Midwest?
I was tired of making choices for what was good for my career as opposed to what was good for my well-being.
I hear that. Yeah.
And I love New York, and I love living in New York, and I miss my friends all the time. And I'm so lucky that I get to go back, and grateful that work takes me back a couple times a year. So with that caveat, I've just always really loved the city of Chicago. I've loved the combination of like incredible nonstop cultural offerings, and also just the sort of like Midwest nice.
Yeah.
And so I was just really happy the times I had worked here in the past. And I was like, well, life is short. Let's try this out for a bit. So I like to say it's my home base. But if you are out there and you're thinking of offering me a job, I can find my own East Coast housing. Or West Coast, whatever you need.
Go
where the work is.
Exactly right.
That's another piece of advice.
That's very good.
But I guess that is like, you have to sacrifice so much to work in the arts. So I guess like, as we're talking about this too, like, I guess another piece of advice would be like, yes, pursue it with your whole life and your whole heart, but like, don't forget you're also a person, and like, as a person, you have needs.
Thank you for saying that. We do forget that a lot.
Yeah, it's easy to forget because everyone's going.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why my family and I decided to stay here in Chicago as well. But the plan when I came here with Jersey Boys was we'll do it for a year and then we'll go back to New York. And I will never forget this. I came home from the show one night and my son was, just about 2. And I came home late. My wife was in bed and would like tossing and turning, trying to fall asleep. And I had said something about like, well, when we go back. And she said, honey, you've been saying that a lot lately. And I just have to say, I don't think we can afford to go back. Like that, it was a lot of money we spent to move here. I think we need to stay. And it wasn't until she put it in that context, I was like, well, shit, she's right. It was like 10 grand plus to move halfway across the country. And we were enjoying our time here. And we had been here maybe 5 months at that point. Like my head was already going back to New York. But then, after a while that she got her yoga certification, she established a great yoga practice here. My son made friends, started going to school. We're like, yeah, no, this is the place. So, we love it. And saying, I like what you said, a lot of the cultural offerings, but with the Midwest, nice. I like the way you said that. That's very true. And downtown Chicago, whenever I'm there, even just driving through, my wife's in the car, I just go, man, I love this city. I do.
It's such a beautiful city.
It is. It is. Well, first of all, you and I should tell our listeners, you and I just met recently because you were playing keys for auditions for a production of She Loves Me that I'm choreographing at Northwestern University next fall. And do you work at Northwestern or did they just bring you in to play auditions? I don't know. We never discussed that. So
how much more time do we have?
As much time as you want.
I work there intermittently. The quick answer is I'm good friends with Alex Gemignani, who teaches at Northwestern also intermittently when he's not working on other stuff. And he brought me in to, play for and music direct his scene study classes. And that has just been sort of this like fun lifeline. And then when there's other stuff like the playing auditions, which I love to do when I have the opportunity, I think it's like so good for the brain. And, just getting a beat on like, what are young folks singing these days? What do they care about?
Yeah.
And the answer for about 50 of them was Thoroughly Modern Millie.
And Amelie, apparently.
And Amelie.
Yeah.
Okay, listen.
I'm listening.
Ladies, you can stop singing Sister's Pickle.
There's a lot of Sister's Pickle up in that joint. Yes.
We got it.
Yes.
Sorry. But if we're being honest.
Yeah. And I was really intrigued by the girl, maybe there was more than one girl, who sang What Do I Need With Love?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is that common? Are a lot of girls singing that song at auditions, or was it just this anomaly?
I don't know. And when you see a trend like that, then you wonder like, oh, did somebody do it? And then like the video went around. You never know if that's like just a thing a bunch of people came to, but I don't know. I mean, it's funny too, how cyclical it is. Cause when I was graduating from college, Thoroughly Modern Millie was like on Broadway or maybe it was just before I graduated that it was out. But, I remember the teachers then being like, you can't sing from the show because everyone does it. And then it went away for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And now we're back.
Yeah.
And those are fantastic songs.
Yeah. And apparently there's a revival in the works.
Oh.
I have a good friend who has a podcast in New York. David Goldsmith. His podcast is called Does It Sing? And he has interviews with the likes of
Dick Scanlon.
Yes. Oh, he's had them on. Sorry, their names escaped me. I appreciate your help. And when he had Dick Scanlon on the show, he said, we're workshopping a revival of the show. And we're reworking some of the material. Yeah. Yeah.
Dick Scanlon is a very cool guy and mega talented.
Yeah.
And of course, Janine Sori is Mother.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff on that show. My wife actually toured with that show.
Cool. Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm glad that we connected the dots as to how, of course I met you and I wasn't sure how you were aligned with Northwestern. So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. I kind of go in and out. Like I'm there this semester and then can't do fall. And it's like, it just depends on what's happening, but I love being able to teach when, I also teach at Roosevelt doing the senior scene study class, but that's intermittent too, depending on just like what the needs are of the class. And so, it's great to be able to do it and to stay in touch. And I don't know, I learned so much from teaching. Like I feel lucky to get to be able to step into that capacity and like, pick up some thoughts myself.
I've heard that from other teachers we've had on the podcast. And quite frankly, I mean, those students were so lucky to have you behind that piano as well, because I heard you giving them some advice about how they can clean up their book and make this cut easier. And I mean, where do you learn that? You don't learn that in an audition because they're getting you out the door, Yeah. So that was fantastic. So,
there's always time to teach in those even if it's a busy day, as they were the days we were
Yes.
auditioning for those shows. But I just feel like, what are we doing there if we're not helping them in the moment? Like, and it's just so specialized, like auditioning with live cuts of a printed out piece of paper. There's just like, there's not a lot of things you got to know, but the things you got to know are important to setting yourself up for success.
And I appreciated how some of them would walk in with a choice between iPad and paper. You're like, I'll take the paper. Like they don't quite get that. Not everybody is the iPad. Not that iPads are bad, but you're setting them as a performer, you're setting yourself up for disaster if you're going to put technology in front that could fail, the battery could die, the page won't turn.
Exactly.
So I think it's a boon for Chicago that you are here, that you're back in town, even though you work all over the place. What have you got coming up next? You said you're not available in the fall. What are you doing?
Well, okay. I haven't signed the contract yet, but I can say it because I'm always superstitious about those things. But yes, agreements have been passed back and forth. I am so excited I'm going to be performing in and music directing And the World Goes Round at Milwaukee Rep, which is one of my favorite pieces.
It's a great show.
Yeah, such a great show. It's a review of Candor and Ebb, if you don't know, just their songbook up till about, I think the review came out in 91 or 92. So it's like everything they did up until there. So some later stuff isn't in it, but
will you be playing as you perform, or are you going to music directed that someone else to do the music directing and conducting and you'll be on stage?
Yeah. So the director is Kelly Faulkner, and she's fantastic person I love to work with and excited to work with again. And she wants to do like an actor musician version. I know as of now that the goal is to have like an onstage pianist to like handle the bulk of it, because my track sings Mr. Cellophane and no one wants to see that song done with someone behind the piano. What? Yeah. So I think I'll play like maybe accompany other people for like some featured spots, and I play alto sax too, so I think I'm gonna dust that off and
fantastic
bust my lip remembering how to play that instrument. So yeah, that's in the immediate, and then I'm doing Murder for Two again in Cape May, New Jersey, over the holidays.
I'll be on the lookout for the dates for And the World Goes Round. I love the original cast recording. I've never seen it on stage, but I know all the songs. I have sometimes a day goes by and I don't remember you in my audition book. But Milwaukee being such a stone's throw away. The last time we were there, I had a friend that was touring through with Clue. And my wife and I were there. We're like, why don't we come to Milwaukee more often to see shows? It's not that far of a drive. So now I have a good reason to go back.
Oh, yes, please. I'll let you know. But yeah, Milwaukee's a great city and the Rep does really wonderful work. So I'm excited to be there again. Third time there, I think. Fourth.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I'm glad you let me know about that. Where can our listeners find you online? First question.
I have a website that I can now have a good excuse to update because of this. If people are going to go there, it's my name, joekinosian.com. And then Joe Kinzo, Kinzo on Instagram and YouTube. I have there's videos of me, doing fun, silly stuff on YouTube. And I make original music videos with puppets on my own YouTube channel, which is also Joe Kinzo. So if you have need for moody, emotional puppet dark comedies, you found the place.
Great. Well, we'll have links to all of those in our show notes, like we always do for everybody. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
Oh no, I think I said this to you in the email, but I always want to shout out, if you're a Chicagoan and you want to see good acting, I think one of the best places you can go is the Joffrey Ballet.
Oh.
I always describe the artists at the Joffrey, the dancers, as Oscar-winning actors in the body of Olympic athletes.
Yes.
So it's like my favorite theater, quote unquote, is the Joffrey Ballet because I'm just so blown away by what they do. And it's one of my favorite things about living here is seeing what they have going on.
That is genius. And I apologize that I remember you mentioning that in your intake form. I'm sorry that I skipped over that. I
don't know that they need my shout out because they're doing fine. But in this day of talking about things like opera and ballet, let's make sure to mention that the Joffrey is brilliant. It's incredible. We're lucky to have it in this city.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And we're lucky to have you back in the city, as I said.
Oh,
I'll say it someday I come home.
You too.
Thanks for joining us at the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Chicago Theater Makers Podcast is a production of Spirit Art LLC, and our podcast theme music is by Paul Langford. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, please drop us a note at our website, ChiTheaterMakersPodcast.com. That's ChiTheater, makers with an S, podcast.com. We hope you enjoyed spending time with us as much as we enjoyed spending it with you, and we'll see you on the board soon.